So we're in Derech Mitzvosecha. Mitzvos ha'amanos Eloikus, which means belief in God. We're in chapter 4, and I think that we're towards the end finally. Let's see.
98 in the bottom.
that we read, ומכל מקום לגבי מהותו ועצמתו ומה שראה ידיעה זו פעולה ממשי, כמו שבריאת הנברא היא פעולה, ופעולה זו נעשית על ידי כלי. In any case, what does hold from the parable of using a tool, like an artisan, an artist using a tool, is that knowledge, even though we said it has special standing because it's ispashtus of Hashem. It's not the regular, how shall we say, the regular type of relationship that a person has with the tool, because you can tell the artist from the action. This is an action in the end. This is something that he acts. It's not he himself. And in order to act, there's different types of ways that he can act. He can act directly, which is how he creates wisdom and understanding and knowledge. He creates them directly. Or he acts through a vessel, through an instrument, through a tool. And in this case, knowing all of creation, he knows through the tool called knowledge, through das. That's how he knows it. ובזה צדקו דברי הגאון הנ"ל, דהיינו מה שכתוב שהידיעה אינה עצמותו. And so, what the Maharal said is true, that God's knowing is not he himself. You can't define God as a knower. He knows, but he's not a knower. He uses knowledge, but he's not a knower. But as we said, since the Sfirot are considered to be divine, meaning that they have some special standing relative to everything else, because we said that they are the extension of Hashem. We made by extension, we meant different things. I wanted to read to you from from the Epistle 20, where he defines what it means that they're divine. But let's see, he might get into this a little bit here also. So the Rambam is also partially correct.
That's what I thought.
Right, because how's he partially? We said this a few times. He's partially correct because he gives it special standing. Because knowledge is one of the sfirot, so it does have special standing.
A tool that's part of him and it's
Right.
hard to separate.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Because he says that it is unified with him, meaning with Hashem. Not with him himself. He doesn't mean him himself, because then again we would go back to saying that Hashem is a knower, and that's not what we mean to say. But rather what we mean is im he'arato hamitlabeshet ba, kmo she'yitbaer im yirtzeh Hashem. But rather with his revelation that is enclosed within the knowledge, as we will explain. This will explain better in chapter 5. Shehu yodea, and then because of that, all the Sfirot have a special standing with Hashem, where you can say that he is one with them entirely. And how does the Rambam say this? He says, Shehu yodea v'hu de'a v'hu yadua, that he and his knowledge and what he knows are all one. But we don't mean that they are one in Hashem. We mean that they are one in the sense that they receive from his unity. Now he said that in Epistle 20, he explains that what this means is that they have the power to create infinitely. They're not infinite themselves, although they're called blima, without end, but they have the power to create infinitely. What do we mean by infinitely? What we mean by that is that there is an infinite, you'll understand this from mathematics in a second, I'll say it the way we would say it mathematically, but there's an infinite gap, or there's an infinite space between the different creations. The creations don't know that they all come from the same place. Like, we don't feel this about ourselves. If you take the different creations in the world, they can't. They can't trace themselves back. There's no way they can trace themselves back. They don't know where they came from. In mathematics, we would say they're all orthogonal to one another. When we say something is orthogonal to something else, we mean there's no hetel, there's no projection from one on the other. You can't figure out. They don't coincide in any way. In any case, ושניהם דברי אלוקים חיים. And really, both Maimonides and the Maharal, they're both correct, each one from his own partially correct point of view. דברי הגאון צדקו בביאורו עניין מהותו יתברך, שאינו נופל בו גם גדר מוגבל. The Gaon, the Maharal of Prague, he's correct in that he said that you can't define God in any way, and you can't say anything limited about him, כמו שכל, even to say that he's mind, you can't say that. אלא הוויה פשוטה, but simple being. Simple, we mean that it doesn't even enclose itself in anything. So that's what simple means. נעלם מאיתנו, concealed from us. הצטייר מהותו רק בבחינת אמונת אומן שיש מצוי זה. And the only thing that we know is that this creation that he created, this is his act. This is what he did. ודברי הרמב"ם צדקו, and Maimonides is right, שהייחוד שביארו הוא עניין התלבשותו בכלים דאצילות של אלוקות קנה. The Rambam was right in that what he described is what later the Kabbalists will call the world of emanation and all the sfirot, and what he described about knowledge is true of all the sfirot. It's not just particularly wisdom, because we said we have this verse from the prophets, Kulam b'chokhmah asita, you created all with wisdom. So wisdom has a special standing even more than knowledge, because we said that with wisdom, because of its self-nullification, is the only place that can contain the infinite. In some way, not entirely, obviously, but it's more infinite than the others. There's different variations of infinity. There can be infinity in quantity, there can be infinity in qualities, there can be infinity in other respects also. There's many different ways to describe infinity. Okay, so now we're up to chapter 5. But still we haven't explained this well enough, because really we haven't finished explaining what is the relationship between the Sfirot and between Hashem. We still haven't figured this out. I mean, he's given some parables, the instrument in Hashem's hand and so on, and we gave the music, and there's all the different examples that we gave. Still, it needs more clarification. We need to understand these instruments, these vessels, the Sfirot, these tools that Hashem uses. How can we say that they are divine? What do we mean by that? So chapter 5 is going to be dedicated to talking about what it means that they are infinite. And if I remember correctly, he will quote from Epistle 20 in the Tanya. On the one hand, they are divine. On the other hand, they are not in any way or in any respect part of his essence, part of who he is in and of himself, God. עד שכאשר נריך המהות שלהם לגבי מהותו ועצמותו יתברך, הוא ממש כיחס העשייה הגופנית הנברא מאין ליש אצלו יתברך, ששניהם רחוקים ממנו יתברך בהשוואה אחת ממש. They're so distant in the end that we call them action. Hashem acts them, he makes them. And you can't talk about when I make something, you can't say that what I made and who I am are the same thing. Obviously, what I make is something completely an extension, completely extraneous to me. So how do we say that they're divine? In what respect do we mean this? This seemingly does not go well in a person's mind. It's very hard to understand this with common sense. The other point is we need to understand the relationship of the Sfirot to Hashem as his tools of creation. What does it mean that he uses them? We said that when he wants to give loving kindness, he uses chesed, he uses loving kindness. When he wants to give might, he uses might. We say, stand up for us because you are a God of might, of tremendous strength. What do we mean by that? Right? We already answered all these questions because we saw this when we learned davening. When we learned Shorosh Mitzvah Tefillah, he discussed all this. In any case, we'll see it here again, and it'll be a good review. And really, all the changes in reality, they come because of the different vessels that Hashem is using, the different instruments. Again, thinking of a painter, painting a picture is a very good analogy. You get blue when he uses his blue brush. You get wide stroke, thin stroke, and so on. Okay, so we'll end here, and God willing, continue tomorrow.